In Korach, it says, Vayipol al panav, Moshe doesn't know what to do, he falls on his face. But Ibn Ezra and Rashbam say, he's not giving up, he's not abdicating, but rather, he's making a tefillah, he's making a prayer on his face as we do in our Tachanun prayer. We fall on our face and it's a form of prayer. And this is Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe is praying and waiting for that moment when a great leader will arise. And in this parsha, the leadership arises. Moshe can't do it alone. He cannot be the people. He cannot represent the people to the nth degree. They have to show their own willingness to be led, to care. Pinchas is that person who in a very flamboyant fashion shows that the Jewish people still care. Yes, Reb Samson Raphael Hirsch says that Moshe gave back the leadership. He says, humanly, there's no more I can do. But there's another view, a view that what we have here, Heima Bochim, they were crying. Ibn Ezra says, Mitpalalim, they were praying. The Targum Yonatan ben Uziel says, V'karyin Shema, they prayed the Shema. And with that, they hoped that a new leadership would emerge. And boy, with their prayers fulfilled. Pinchas was the ideal leader, the Eliyahu and Avi type leader, the impassioned, passionate leader who will save the Jewish people and save that grassroots leadership which we had always needed and always desired. We mentioned the Rabbeinu Bachye that at this moment the Jewish people almost experienced the total death of the annihilation of the Jewish people. But it's not only that this great plague was stopped, that the thousands of people stopped dying, but we notice an interesting thing. From this point on in the book of Bamidbar, no one else dies. No one in the Jewish people, among the children of Israel, not one person dies from here till the end of the book. Because Pinchas affects a new change. He himself will never die. And in this book and in this story, this is the end of death in this chapter for the people of Israel. Because now someone has stepped up to the plate. There is a new leadership. We all know the story of Nachshon ben Aminadav. At the outset of the Jewish people's journey and sojourn to the land of Israel, they were confronted by this raging sea of the Reed Sea of the Yam Suf. And we know that it was Nachshon ben Aminadav, according to some opinions, who jumped into the sea, and with that grassroots zeal and fervor, Nachshon led the way and the Jews marched through the splitting sea. I would like to argue that as the Jewish people are about to commence on this new journey to the land of Israel, a second time, yet again, what happens is that it's Pinchas who jumps in. Pinchas who shows, like Nachshon before him, the leader of the tribe of Judah. Now it's a leader of the tribe of Levi. And he comes forward and he jumps forward. And he says, Ayikach Romach biado, he takes that spear in his hand. The Nesivo Shalom, the Rabbi of Slonim, quotes an earlier authority, the Beis Avraham. And the Beis Avraham says that when he took a Romach, he took that spear. We know Romach is also the same letters as Ramach. Ramach 248, that's the number of limbs in a person's body. Ramach Ivarim. Hainu shalakach atzmo im kol Ramach Ivarim. He took himself with all his limbs, his whole self. Al yedei shematzar atzmo kol gufo Ramach Ivarav Mesur Nefesh. Since he gave his entire self, all 248 limbs, and he gave over his soul. Therefore, it was a rectification of all the bad things that were happening to that point. The key word, I would argue, at the end of Parshat Balak, and the key word in the beginning of Pinchas, is the word mitoch ha'ida. What does it say? Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, he saw what was going on. Vayakom, he rose up, mitoch ha'ida, from among the people. Sfas Emes says, you know what he did? He rose up, b'shem kol Yisrael, in the name of all the Jews. Every mitzvah we do, from a mystical point of view, we need to do it not as individuals only, but in the name of all of Israel. And that's what he did. He stood up, b'shem kol Yisrael. He did it on behalf of all of the Jewish people. Sfas Emes writes, Sfas Emes, he says, at this point, a new leadership arises, a new way of looking at the whole world. Hanaga acheret shel dor ba'ei haaretz. He says, at this time, until now, the leadership was through Moshe, through all sorts of spiritual methods. Now it's going to be a new level. He says, it was not a bchitut Moshe Rabbeinu. This was not a diminution of Moshe's leadership. It was his role for his generation. And the key word is that he stood up, mitoch ha'edah. He rose up from among the people. And therefore it says, in our parsha, the kanoat kinati, he avenged my vengeance, bitocham, among the Jewish people. He was just like everybody else. He was just a plain Jew. And he rose up and he did something among the Jews as one of the Jews. It's a new generation. And the Rebbe of Slonim says something else. What is leadership? Leadership is not that, oh, what a great leader, he's terrific. Leadership means that you inspire others. With this very brazen act, very public act of spearing those two sinners, he made the Jewish people come to hakarat hachet, to recognize, what are we doing? What kind of thing are we engaged in over here? What do we think we're doing? Don't we remember Sinai? He helped all the Jewish people realize what the sin was that they were doing. They were shaken out of their stupor. And from then on, all the Jewish people turned a page into Teshuvah. They turned a page to a new identity, a new role for themselves. The idea of the book of Bamidbar, arguably, is the notion that there must be those from among the rank and file who join Moshe with passionate leadership. In the story of Pinchas, a very, very important episode in the Jewish history takes place. With the rise of Pinchas, we have a new leadership. We have passionate leadership. And Pinchas calls on all of us, as Eliyahu Hanavi, he calls on each of us to be passionate, to be one of those people among the Jewish people, among the Betoch B'nai Yisrael, who not necessarily as the leader, not Moshe Rabbeinu, but as just the Amcha, the plain people, that we identify with Moshe and we join together for a passionate leadership, a new leadership. And with that, Pinchas changes Jewish history forever. Not only stops the plague, but inspires the Jews to join Moshe's efforts in saving the Jewish people and marching to the land of Israel. I'd like to thank Jason Lefkowitz for making today's program possible. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to email me at rabbijmf@gmail.com for any comments or questions. Thank you very much.